Hello, everybody, and welcome to Table Takes. Today is Friday. Gotta get down on Friday. April 24th. How was your guys' weekend or week inside?
What day is it again? I've lost track.
It's 24th. It's 24th. I'm pretty sure.
You gotta get down on Friday, is what I hear.
Yes, you gotta get down because it's all about the weekend. The week.
Wait, are we doing the musical episode now? I'm not prepared for this.
Nope, we're definitely not.
Yes, okay. But I have jazz hands. Mm-hmm. Why not with the jazz hands, though? Yes. I found out that I adopted a little baby dragon who likes to steal things and collects things into his bed and hoards it.
That could also just be a kobold. I feel like maybe you're jumping the gun, escalating all the way to dragon. If it starts breathing fire, then yeah, you definitely have got a dragon on your hands. Until then, could be a kobold, maybe a goblin.
Maybe a goblin. I feel like a goblin more. Yes. Oh.
We need someone skilled in magical creature identification.
Magical creature. Yes, I need identification of the magical creatures. But yeah, no. Anything new with you guys? Any games that you've been playing online with friends?
I played a really cool one. Long-time listener, Last Time Caller is an indie RPG that's developed by some of my friends. I was supposed to be not here this past weekend because I was going to be on a design retreat. We ended up doing it digitally, which was also very fun. And this is a game. It's a radio show, and the DM is a radio show host. And so all of the players of the game are callers who call in to the show, and it's at the end of the world. So slowly, as you're playing through this game, the host kind of reveals, like, for our game, we had like you just put in little details, like, well, I put the tinfoil up on the windows, and so I think I'm okay. So you're just dropping in these little details about what the disaster is, but it's like pre-apocalyptic, so the world is going to end. You're kind of talking through that. It's available on Drive-Thru RPG, I think, and it was super fun.
Ooh, sounds like it would work really well for like an online component too.
Oh yeah, it worked. We just played it on Discord, and it was great having the chat channels because you'd like queue up your callers for that. And it was funny too because like so much of it is so hilarious. I was just laughing, but I could mute myself. So what we heard from each other was just the very serious calls, and we had a separate chat channel where we're just like, while the person was talking, is like, it was we also played as a love thing. So it was 3 a.m. The radio station was a college radio station where it was for Lonely Hearts. That's what Missed Connections, Lonely Hearts. So we're like, oh my gosh, in the chat channel separate from the actual voice chat, we were like, oh my gosh, they're totally gonna fall in love.
That reminds me of a thing that I discovered as I was running L5R over Discord, is that the video channel that we were using to kind of coordinate with each other, that was really on topic. It was really focused and on character.
Yeah.
And then the chat channel was totally the opposite of that. So it had kind of the interesting effect of we had as much or more table talk than we normally would, I think. But it was all not visible to me. So, because I was focusing on the video. So it was this very, very funny thing where we would take a break or something like that, or I would want to look up something and I would go look at the video, and there would just be this string of memes where they were making fun of all the NPCs that I had introduced. Yeah. I hadn't seen any of it.
Yeah.
So it didn't disrupt me running the game. Yeah. It just kind of added this weird layer afterward when I actually like sat down to look at it.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, no, with me, I basically, what I've learned is that I can, if no one locks their things, I just touch and throw all the game pieces off the table.
Nice.
Very, very productive. Speaking of locking and loading in your games, Derek, you have a topic about locked and loaded and ready to tell us?
Yes, so Lock and Load from Privateer Press. If anybody's not familiar, it's a convention that they host in Bellevue, right near Seattle, covering War Machine, Hordes, and stuff like that. Unsurprisingly, considering current world events, that has been canceled for 2020. It was planned for late June, so they have announced that they have some plans for a series of virtual events or at least some previews and streams online, because Lock and Load, as a first-party convention, is very much a venue where Privateer has a chance to connect with their fans, release new products, kind of go over new things, hold some large tournaments. So it'll be interesting to see what they're able to kind of put together and pull off, and how much fan kind of interaction there will be. But we just wanted to let folks know that the convention itself is canceled, and they should have more information coming soon about what kind of previews they'll be doing. They might very well end up doing something a lot like what Warhammer has done. We talked about their big preview was coming out last weekend, I think. They've just taken their previews online and kind of done them in a slightly different format because they don't have a convention in which to share them in.
Mm-hmm. Speaking about online conventions, you were talking about another online convention that was happening right now, like EmmaCon or so.
ZooCon.
Or not? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I gotta do that now.
Yeah, we were expecting Christian to join us, but he ran into some issues this morning. So he is and the rest of Zoe, Zombie Orpheus Entertainment, are working on a ZoeCon, which is kind of a fully online convention that they're doing now. So if you go to, I think, zoecon.net, I believe is the website.
I'm gonna post the link here actually, because I don't think we have that.
Not the adorable insect convention.
Oh, insect.
You found?
Yeah. If you Google ZoeCon, then there's a couple of other things there.
Yeah, so they have an online show that is kind of running primarily out of Discord that then sprawls into a variety of other locations. So if you're looking for something to do today and tomorrow, you probably want to sign up and check that out.
Ooh, yes. As we go on, more of the stuff happens with this pandemic, as things going on, we can expect things to be delayed. Emma, do you have any news about that?
I do. So we got some kind of sad news about Magic the Gathering delays. The Jumpstart, which was originally planned for July 3rd, is now going to be released 2 weeks later on July 17th. I think as we talk about some of these delays and different dates for things, we do want to share the news about things being delayed, but it's important to note, at this point, whether you're ordering something online, whether you're getting something through the mail, it's just really important to remember. I would just say none of these dates are set in stone. So pretty much don't set your heart on any particular dates, even if, and don't get mad at companies. I think is an important thing is yes, we're very excited about these things in a lot of ways, thinking about new games, new products, and can help to take our mind off of things. But don't look at this and say okay, this is the new absolute certain date. But we do have it's delayed by at least 2 weeks. And for what Jumpstart was, we had talked about it in the past. It's actually this really cool, exciting product, a little bit like Smash Up. We had likened to it in the past, a little bit like Keyforge. You're going to take 2 random 20-card booster decks and shuffle them together. So you have a 40-card deck, and you have everything within that you need to play. So 2 decks, shuffle it. It's got all the lands, got all creatures, all sorts of different things in there. So I've been very excited about this. It's a product for an easier way for people to get into Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I'm very interested in it because it sounds like it's my kind of Magic where you can still play Magic, but you don't have to think ahead at all. You just kind of buy the cards and play. And then when you lose, you can be like, oh, well, it was clearly bad cards. It's not my fault.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very excited because one of the trickier parts when I was working in Mock's boarding house for getting people into Magic, so I was very much a pusher. Parents would come in and say oh, my kid's kind of maybe interested in Magic. I'm like, go on. Let me show you my wares. Open the jacket, right? Here's all your stuff.
I'll give you a little taste.
First one's free. But Mox has some great products. So the battle decks that we had, you can grab a couple of those, play them against each other. But for a consistent retail experience for parents or kids or new people getting into the game, pointing them to where exactly they start can be tricky. It's well, you can look at this, or here's a deck, or you can get some packs. But to say this, get 2 of these, mix them together, your friend does the same thing, and you can just start playing. I think it's very great. It's also interesting how it reflects what Arena is doing with a lot of the modes on a Magic Arena right now being for pre-built decks, where you just fire up Arena and there's the deck and you just play the game. Anything that makes it easy for people to hop into it, I think is great.
Yeah, so I definitely want to give these a shot when they come out.
Yeah, even as a longtime experienced player, I'm excited to try it out because I like the chaos aspect of it, right? Like, oh, this combination is really good and fun. And it captures a little bit of that kitchen table magic, which is something us old fogies we're always looking for that, looking to come back to that, right? We get into Commander and all these weird, we get into Cube, all these formats because we just want to have that experience of playing the weird, fun stuff in Magic that, you know, if you play standard or even like high level competitive limited play, it can be hard to capture. Just like, I just want to do the stuff in the game. I want to mill you, or I want to cast this huge creature.
Or it's just the ability to play around with stuff that isn't meta, I think, is the
Exactly.
You know, like you have all these cards and you know which cards are kind of forming the decks that tend to win tournaments and stuff like that. But you want to mess around with all these other ones that just don't get enough attention, that they're cool art or they're cool concept. You know, you wish they were more successful.
Yeah, the thing with the wall of text, it's like if these 10 factors are in play, you get to do this really cool thing. You just win the game, or you draw 50 cards, your opponent has to do a little dance or something. Yeah. Those all totally
I see someone is prepared for a new unglued set or something like that.
You gotta make sure it's glued. Wasn't there like you know, people are like, I don't know if this is properly sealed. I think they took out all the cards and then reshuffled. You know, conspiracy theories go out, and it's always fun when those come out.
Oh, sure, fun. That's what we'll call it.
Well, we're getting past all of this like bummer news, of course, due to the pandemic. And we got some good news for you folks. Guess what? Basically, numbers have come in, and it has been basically D&D's sales growth has been very consecutive, like very high growth, basically. Past 6 years, D&D has been going up, and a lot of people contribute that to like Tabletop, or like basically Tabletop Wire did an article talking about how like it's like over 300% of introductory boxes have like gone up by 300%. Viewership on YouTube, on Twitch and stuff is like up on a 59%. Overall, the growth in Europe with D&D games has been up 65%, and you know, 40% of these players are 24 years and younger. So and another good thing to note is that a thing to note about the players 24 years and younger, this infographic doesn't necessarily include people who are 46 and above. So keep that in mind when you're
the info. Like it seems like there were some errors when they were putting the infographic together, because it just excludes everybody 46 and older. So then I don't think those percentages quite add up anymore. So I don't know how the error got in there. I imagine they'll release an updated version before too long. But that still doesn't discount how much of the audience is young now, because that's the thing. It's something that role-playing games have always kind of struggled with this existential fear that at any moment their entire hobby is going to collapse and no one's going to play it anymore and no one likes it, and the kids these days with their Fortnites are not going to play it, but like
they're forking their knives.
Clearly they are. So maybe we can stop freaking out and worrying for a while and just enjoy all these people who want to play RPGs.
Yeah, and also 39% now identify as female, so that's also very exciting to see.
Yep.
Yes.
So a lot of those kind of older cliches are maybe have passed their shelf life and can be kind of retired for a little while, maybe.
Yeah.
The interesting thing to me was that growth in Europe, and I'm very curious why. So, you know, they show the sales arc in Europe. They show how much growth it had, and I wonder what is driving that. I wonder if it's Europe kind of discovering that in some capacity, or I kind of have I have a vague recollection that Wizards has been announcing kind of more and more partnerships and licensing deals with foreign publishers and translators and distributors. So I wonder if a lot of that growth is just D&D products now being available in those markets for the first time in their native language, as opposed to, you know, them having to learn English or getting a fan translation or something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this growth is that people in Europe have been playing all along, but this is now the first time that they've had official products to buy, and products in that language are helping to kind of grow that market. I don't know.
That makes sense.
And plus, we're all a little bit more connected. Like they said, like 59% of that viewership is like, you know, up from like YouTube and Twitch, and it being more accessible versus like I remember growing up, like there was still the devil talking about D&D and stuff. And my mom's like, I don't know if we should let you go. I'm like, it's perfectly fine. I'm here. I'm at the game store. You can come pick me up later on. You know? So it's definitely a different type of like atmosphere, I would say, with acceptance of that. So, but that is exciting news to be. But you know, this growth of D&D leads to other new games coming out that people can embrace and love. Emma?
Sure. So there's a new Kids on Bikes game called Kids on Brooms. It's powered by Kids on Bikes, so that means it uses the same mechanical system. We've talked about Kids on Bikes a few times before on the show. This is, and I was trying to remember.
Let me guess. This is the game that you can use to play the kid at the end of the Star Wars movie with the broom, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, this Kids with Brooms. I think
that's Kid with Broom.
Derek.
Correct. That'll probably be the expansion that comes out soon.
Yeah, Kids with Brooms. So I've been playing a lot of games recently. I realized with the games that we played on Gen Con TV and just doing one-shots and stuff, I had to think for a little bit. It's like, had I actually played this? I haven't gotten a chance to play it, but I've read through the core rule book for it, looked a lot into the system and what it has, and I really like a lot of the stuff that it does. A lot of stuff is just makes a lot of sense, is very elegant. For example, you're better at a skill, you just roll the bigger dice. So your best skill, you roll a d20. Your worst skill, you roll a d4. It's very clear to see, kind of like looking at your dice, what you're better and worse at. And it's not like you have a bunch of, every character has their own skills and everyone's doing different things. Everyone has the same skill. So it's very basic stuff like your, I think charisma is one of them. Tough is potentially another one. So it's gritty. So it's all stuff that makes a lot of sense for your character. And because that means it's less fighting focused, right? So it's not like, oh, I've got my fireball and stuff. If you get into a fight, you could die. You know, it's very similar to Powered by the Apocalypse in that way. It's not about getting into 3-hour-long combats and shooting at each other, having like a 3-hour shootout. It's very much more character focused and interpersonal relationship focused. A lot of the beginning of the game is the character creation and how your characters are related to each other. So for this one, for the new system, the Kids on Brooms, this is totally not Harry Potter.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Bond's singing the music before the show started. Collaborative role-playing game about taking on the life of a witch or wizard at a magical school you all attend, a place full of mystery, danger, and thrilling adventure. So this is, I think this is just going to do great as a product because there's so many people who want to role play that experience. And there are some different mods and systems, like many people are already playing these types of games. There's even LARPs for these types of games. And so this is another entry into that. But I think with the Kids on Bikes system and being pretty straightforward and easy to get into, and again, focusing on those interpersonal relationships, which you look at Harry Potter, that's what it's about. It's not really about the spell slinging as much as it is about how do we face our challenges, how do we grow, and even just the world that we're creating, how do we create kind of a unique wizard world that's different from the ones that we've read about. You know, it doesn't have to be modern-ish time. Like maybe you do have technology in your wizarding world. Maybe it's set in the future. You know, maybe it's set in the Wild West. There's a lot of different things.
Or maybe it's Mary Botter at Dogworks. Totally different.
Totally different.
Totally different. Well, I mean, like, yeah, I want to see, because we don't really have too much information about this. I want to see how they do make it different than, like, of course, everybody's mind straight goes to Harry Potter, but I've also read other series where it's like, only the rich have magic, and you have to be rich to be or aristocrat with noble blood to be in the magic school and to control magic. So I wonder what role they're going to play, or is it just going to be like, boom, everybody has magic? Kind of like,
I don't know how much detail they'll go into. They'll probably leave that up to individual groups, so you'll end up with a lot of Harry Potter clones. But the same way that D&D borrows from what people remember of Tolkien, less than what Tolkien actually was, I think is probably a good way to say it.
Right, exactly.
But people have kind of expectations of what D&D is like, but not every D&D game obviously has to be that way, even if that's the default presumption. So I was weaned on enough different magical high schools in anime that there's a wider range there than you might expect.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it does. People were very excited about Kids on Bikes when it came out.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see them kind of expanding. They got Kids on Bikes, Kids in Space, and Kids on Brooms now.
Teens in Space.
Yes. Teens in Space. Yeah. Okay. Teens in Space.
Because Kids in Space would be irresponsible.
I know, right? Yeah, you gotta age up a little bit for that.
You gotta be older to be in space. You gotta be at least 15 to be in space. All right, that's just a common rule. Guys don't know.
Is it a common rule?
Yeah, totally common rule. You have to be 15 to be in space.
Does that mean that space is rated PG-13?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Don't question it. Just go with it.
Just go with it. Yes. In Gen Con universe, you have to be PG-13 to go in space. But yeah, so it'd be exciting to figure out what else comes out of this. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But Emma, you have more news to talk about that's digital. Let's go digital.
Yeah. So we're trying to share more and more of digital board game news and giving you potential options of things to look into and play sooner rather than later. So the news here is there's going to be a digital release of Agricola. So the classic, probably one of the most classic of classic worker placement, resource management games. This is definitely the original Grognard game. I would put it up there, like almost as well known a level of Settlers of Catan and Ticket to Ride, maybe more complex.
Definitely, because it was there when board games were becoming a thing that you were passionate about, and not a thing that your family did to pass the time when they thought you shouldn't watch TV, basically.
Yeah.
Ticket to Ride and Settlers of Catan were the very accessible kind of entry games that I think got a lot of people into the hobby. But I think games like Puerto Rico and Agricola were some of the first ones that were complex enough, I think, to keep a lot of people in the hobby and to give them a lot to dig into. I certainly said, I wish that this digital adaptation had existed then, because I've only played Agricola like once, and my friends didn't really explain any of the rules. So I was not informed that I needed to actually like get the pot and the veggies and cook the food to feed the family. So my personal story was a tragedy and not a heartwarming story about overcoming the odds in your small farm.
Yeah, this is heartbreaking. Your story just makes me so sad about your poor people. It is one of those games, right? It's one of those games like Food Chain Magnate, where you can get in there and you can just mess up in the beginning. And if you don't know some of those subtleties, rule subtleties, and it's not hard either. You're just like, I'm just doing this stuff. It's kind of cruel in a way, right? Where it does punish you for not understanding. And it's a game that rewards a lot of repeat play and a lot of deep understanding of the rules. So what's exciting about this news is there's no date on here because it just released. They are announcing this thing, and it is available now. So it's $9.99 on Steam. They have a PC edition. They have a mobile one in the App Store and on Google Play. So you can actually just go ahead and grab that now.
Now is the time to build your collection, your digital shelf of board games.
Yeah.
Because because now is the time you need them. So go out there and grab some stuff.
You can play in single player mode, which is always nice for you, Derek, right? Where you can just play and kind of learn the rules before you have to be thrown in there.
Because I don't trust the kind of friends who would introduce me to this game, basically.
You can also play in multiplayer with your friends on local or online. But I do. This is something we talk about a lot on the show, about the digital versus the physical games. I have a copy of Agricola that's been sitting on my shelf because I haven't yet had the time to sit down and go through the rules and really figure it out. But I could see just playing through this digital version a couple of times, it makes you much more prepared to play the physical one. So then you bring out the physical one, play through it. If you're trying to learn the game so you can teach it to other people, going through a tutorial for a game can be a great way to do that. So yeah, I think it's a very cool thing you should check out, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be excited about grabbing this.
Yeah, this is time to bulk up on your digital library. Hope you guys have enough storage space to like grab everything as we announce it, because these things aren't going to be these aren't going to be around forever, so you might as well grab them while you can and have your own little. You could sit in your one bedroom instead of having like books and books. You just have, this is my terabyte hard drive. It has all the games that has ever been created. I kind of like that little.
Well, I mean, based on what's around behind me, can I just have both, maybe?
Oh, you can have both. You can have both, but like one. Well, I mean, one you can run out with in case there's a fire, I guess you could say. What would you do? But my friends, that has been our main topics today. And guess what? We're gonna go to bundle boss with me, bundle intern bonsai.
Bundle's eye.
Bundle's eye. But yes. Bundle's eye. Guess what? We're gonna have a lot of books. So you guys, I figured since we're still on lockdown here, especially in the United States, definitely you want to go ahead and grab these bundles if you're wanting to get digital copies of various different books. First bundle we have, Humble Bundle, Read the Realms. It's basically a collection, $175 value. Collection for collected stories in the Forgotten Realms. So Legend of Dritz anthology. Dritz, sorry. And that ranger, that glorious ranger. Storm of the Dead, Homeland, and Dissolution, all for you guys. DRM free, multi-format, PDF, all you need. And this particular Realms of Read benefits Extra Life, which basically goes into gaming research for kids to help them in hospitals, and also research on how video games and board games in general just help children and kids either sick or in unfortunate circumstances. I think
this might. Well, I think this bundle might be. I think it's like pretty much all of Dritz's adventures.
Yeah.
So and he is like arguably like the biggest or most prominent Forgotten Realms character. Elminster maybe I think gets a lot of attention too, but I think Dritz is the one that has the novels written about him. Elminster as a protagonist is a little different. He's a little more of a force of nature, Deus Ex Machina kind of thing. But
and a lot
Dritz
of books.
Is real classic.
There's like 700 books or something. I don't know. I lost count. There's my husband has been reading the books and still continues to. I'm like, they're still coming out with those? Like, yeah.
I mean, he is a drow. It's like, how long are drows' lifespans? They're like forevers, right? Because
it's also the Forgotten Realms. Like, so many weird, dumb things have happened in the Forgotten Realms that being like, oh, I'm sorry, he's too old to go on adventuring now. It's like, it's fine. They'll figure it out.
Then just go back in time. It's like, oh, and here's a 20-year span of time we just forgot to tell you about, and this happened before this other thing.
Or he drank a potion of immortality, or whatever.
Got hit with the mortality stick. Ta-da!
So almost as bad as comic books.
So Batman doesn't die. It's Superman who dies, but he doesn't really die. He separates into 20 different people. Yes, this is
A
all
wizard
great.
definitely did it. That chat chimes in with what the ultimate answer to just about everything.
Wizard did it. Exactly. The second humble bundle that we have to offer is a series starter by Black Library. So if you're into Warhammer and all of that fun, sunshine, beautiful world, that you can be in joy and sparkles, and you can get first of many Warhammer 40k classic series. Revener, first and only. Storm of Iron, For the Emperor, Eisenhorn, Xenos, Space Wolf, Soul Hunter, and more. So basically, this is a $286 value you're getting for less than like $10 kind of thing. So, and if you couldn't tell by my sarcasticness, this is not about sparkles and rainbows and unicorns.
But it could be.
It could be.
You could make it that.
You could make you could make the emperor be the truest emperor and never
wouldn't that be a betrayal of everything that War 40k is built on, though? I mean, really,
they love betrayal.
I love betrayal.
Yeah,
it's different. That's different.
So
there's an article on the Warhammer community website too that kind of breaks down what a number of these series are, so you can kind of get a sense for what you might be starting. But if you're basically looking for a preview, if you're looking for kind of a smorgasbord sampling of a bunch of different stuff, this is probably a good way to get into it.
Yep. And then this particular one benefits various different libraries around. So, and then now we are into the bundle of holding, which is different than the bundle of humble bundle. Sorry. Bundle holding, humble bundle, all the things. But this one, you ever want to play Star Trek role-playing game? Well, guess what? I have news for you. The licensed 2D20 tabletop role-playing game from Modiphius, Star Trek Adventures. It's everything you need to get your mission in Federation space and beyond. So for the players collection, it's about $20. You get the main source book, 3 character options, flat books, and a set of pre-gens. But for the level up price, that is $41 for the Game Master collection. You get everything in the player's handbook, plus the beta quadrant source book, a bunch of adventures, intro campaigns, and reference sheets for the GM itself. So like basically if you ever wanted to go ahead and start a Star Trek adventure game, I actually was going to go ahead and play this at the last Gen Con, but they ended up running out of space. One of my friends was in there, and I was like, oh, she said it was fun. And so all good things. And this one benefits Vision Rescue, which helps and works to lift up people out of poverty by giving them vision and sight and education. All of that good stuff. But that was our bundles, and now I hand it over to the Kickstarter queen.
I like how recently it's been handing over to me to go to the Kickstarters, and I'm like, great. And now we will go back to all of you because we have finally gotten all of you excited about Kickstarter.
You're the queen. You're in charge.
You're the queen. You have to decree.
The Kickstarter authority flows from me.
Yeah.
So the first one this week actually is Wolfenstein, the board game. So I don't know if anybody has been paying attention to video games lately. Chances are that they have. But Wolfenstein had a little bit of a renaissance with a new edition of the video game. It was very, very well received. It was surprisingly like character driven and surprisingly kind of pushing some envelopes in terms of storytelling for a first-person shooter, which was really nice. Had a really good sequel that people really liked a lot, and now you can take it home with you to fight Mecha Hitler on your kitchen table if you really want to. So this is a full-on KBG Kickstarter board game alert. There are a ton of minis. There's already expansions available for this project, but it's basically you have a squad of heroes and you're infiltrating a Nazi base, killing a lot of Nazis, but you're trying to like manage your resources and your action points and not to raise the alarm too much. So it feels like, because if you play, Wolfenstein on lower levels, you just kind of run around with a gun, screaming at the top of your lungs while you explode people. But if you play at higher levels, you have to kind of, go a little more stealthy so that you're not facing all the enemies at once. So it seems like they're going for a little bit more of that mood, giving a little bit of like resource management kind of to it as well, a little bit of tension. And you can get a ton of minis. They have an expansion or an add-on to get 3D terrain that looks pretty cool. One of the expansions is called Old Blood, which I find very cute because the video game expansion is called New Blood. Maybe this just amuses me, but
I like it.
Yeah, so this is very much like if you love Wolfenstein and you want a adventure board game experience of it, then you should definitely be checking this out. The only caveat that I would say is that unlike a lot of the other adventure board games, these minis are not pre-assembled. So they're going to be a little more involved, like a miniatures game.
Yeah.
You're going to have to cut them. You're going to have to assemble them. You're going to have to paint them. None of that is bad. I got into that myself with Warhammer, and I found that I enjoyed it a great deal more than I expected. So that I think that these probably would be a really good entry point, or for first try for a lot of that kind of stuff for a lot of people. But it is something to keep in mind that it's not going to be like Rising Sun or something like that, where the minis are all just one piece and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Well, I think some people actually like that, like take it apart and put it back together kind of thing. I know sometimes I enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just something you want to be aware of before you get the Kickstarter. Just having that extra
step
barrier. Sometimes you have games that just sit on your shelf for lots of different reasons, and this could be a potential barrier to entry for some people.
Yeah, I mean, I think just plan to take an evening or two to cut out, clean up a little bit and assemble, and you'll find that you enjoy it.
Ooh. Yes.
The next, I'm sorry, we actually didn't talk about how much time that one has. That has 4 days left. It's ending on Tuesday, April 28th. So if you love Wolfenstein, you should probably be checking that out. The next project is BORG. BORG Cult Territory. And this is, if you haven't been hearing about BORG, this is, I guess, what I would describe as like one of the current OSR darlings, but with actual graphic design. Like, it's really pushing itself as an art punk kind of RPG, where it really likes to, you can see these being liner notes in like a punk album or like a heavy metal album or something like that, that also just happens to be an RPG. And it really likes to lean into that kind of OSR, original D&D, very light in the details, lots of evocative, weird things that you can just kind of pick up and carry on your own. So I know a lot of people have been very impressed with the core game, and this is an official zine supplement that includes a lot of material that the community has made, as well as some first-party stuff. So a lot of it apparently is available online for free now, or will be, but there are some components that won't be available online. So if you want the full Borginess,
the full Borg experience,
Borginess,
I just like the name.
Yeah, I have a feeling that a lot of people do. This is what you're going to want to get on. And I have a feeling like if you look at the Kickstarter, you will know very quickly whether this is for you or not. It's a very, they know how they want to look. It's one of those like purity of vision things that I just love, even if I'm never going to play it. But that has 6 days left, Tuesday, April 30th. The other big license game that we have here is They Live, Assault on Cable 54. So if anybody remembers They Live, we had a little bit of a question of that earlier before the show. Not everybody was sure if they'd seen They Live or not, but it's the movie where, you put on the glasses and like the truth of the world can be revealed to you, and all the advertisements are just these mind-controlling billboards that just say obey and consume. So now it's this world of aliens who are invading the world and trying to take over and enslave humanity for a reason, because that's what aliens do.
Reasons.
So this board game is another kind of adventure board game thing. You have a character, you level up, you collect equipment, you go on adventures, you have encounters, you do these things. But then layered on top of that is a little bit of a social deduction element, where you have to kind of figure out who are really aliens and who is not. And then, like, I think the thing that clinched it for me, the really very clever element, is that it comes with these glasses that allow you to see hidden messages on people's sheets and game components and stuff like that. So you'll see some of those propaganda messages like "obey" come through, or if you finally have a chance to reveal someone's true identity because the glasses allow you to see the aliens, you look at their identity card, and if they're an alien, they'll look like an alien. Otherwise, if you don't wear the glasses, they look like humans. So, you know, it's one of those. If you love that movie, I suspect you're going to find this really cute and clever. So if you love They Live, here you go. And I guess, you know, they want you to play with a fair number of people, but they do have rules for solo or just a handful of players modes. Where it sounds like you play multiple characters and you don't necessarily know who's the alien and who's the human. And you have to kind of find out yourself. So
it's like crazy, like you slowly go crazy as you play solo mode? Is that how?
No, sure. Yep, you can definitely interpret that way if you'd like. I was just going to go with hidden information, but if you want to jump straight to crazy, that's okay.
No, it's crazy. That's so fun. You want to play a game that makes you slowly insane and question whether or not is this the real world?
There's, from a design perspective, it is good when people, because the player count for the main game is 4 to 6 players. They've established this is the right number. They're not going to stretch that and give people a worse experience at other player counts. But it's cool that they've taken the time to make a separate mode for different numbers of players, just to make it a little easier to get it to your table.
No.
So that has 6 days left, also Thursday, April 30th. And now Bonsai has a Kickstarter that she wants to share with us that I feel important to note. She called dibs on like the day that it launched.
Yeah.
And you've been waiting for this moment.
I have been. Well, I have to blame one of my my mods, one of my friends. They were like, "Oh, hey, by the way, you're gonna want this game." With 6 days left, Good Puppers, the bestest, best boy girlest game ever. It's basically a card game where you're dogs, and you just want to be friends and bury bones together in the yard. All right. So it's a really cute game. Each of the various different dog breeds do a certain like action, or like, you know, like labs always bury and they can bury bones, but German Shepherds can make your bones be better. And so on and so on. So
is that scientific? Like, if I get a German Shepherd, does it improve my bones?
It's all based on science, Derek. Obviously.
Yeah, it's very serious science. Okay, don't you know that all labs just constantly dig?
Yeah,
and then like the pit bulls are the ones that make the best cuddle friends and zoomies. And all kinds of things. But yeah, it's a game that takes about 30 minutes, can be 2 to 4 players. It's for a younger audience too, so you can play with ages 8 and up. Very easy to learn. And also a cool thing about this is that the rules are already available to view, and there's a print and play version on the Kickstarter itself. So you can try it out and see if it's a game that you would even really get into in terms of like managing, like how do I get the most friend doggos with the most bones at the same time? And how do my bone doggo friends give me more bones, and how do they increase the bones? But yeah, like it's more bones and high quality bones. All right,
better bones.
But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's a very cute, fluffy kind of art kind of thing, like very watercolor-esque. And I really enjoy it. Everybody wins when it's all cute puppers and all different breeds. So, you know, just get it because they're all good puppers. All right, Brian, they're all good puppers.
They're all good dogs.
Yeah. So it has 6 days left, Thursday, April 30th, if that's your kind of game. And then the next game is actually kind of deceivingly cute. ZOOLLYWOOD. It's a game where you are, there's basically ZOOLLYWOOD is a great film production, and they're trying to film the best penguin movie ever. And you are 2 penguins competing against each other to be the best penguin and win the coveted prize of being the lead. The cuteness is only a distraction because it's actually a very complex, like abstract strategy game with penguin themes.
And where you murder your opponent's babies.
Yeah, well, I mean,
eggs.
The eggs. Yes, you gotta push the opponent's eggs off board, and then have to also keep making more eggs. So the whole idea is to win. It's very cute though.
You call that deceptive, but the Puppers game, I feel like, just to point out, never tells you where you get these bones from. So
they're
not the bones of your enemies, Derek, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, well, what about they're clearly the bones of someone's enemies.
Fair. You're not wrong.
Fair. It's the bones of all the various different barbecue restaurants around. Yes. All the Tony Romas as they throw their bones off onto the street. That's what the bones are about. But yes,
so
no.
The game looked good. Like, you didn't. It looked intriguing. It looked fairly deep. You were just confused that it was like a fairly cutthroat abstract board game with this really adorable theme on top.
Yeah, because I'm like, I get it. Like, it does seem, it looks like a good game. It looks pretty intuitive and stuff, but it's kind of like the only other problem I also state in here, it's like it says that it's a 2 to 4 player game, but I don't know how they expand past 2 players, at least from what I saw. It's like somebody saying, let's go play 4 player chess or checkers. So we're gonna have to kind of see how that works. But like it's kind of like a mixture for me, at least for my personal opinion. I don't really see a big market for people who are really into abstract like strategy games aren't necessarily looking for cute factor in their games a lot of times, and people in cute factor like focusing on the cute and not necessarily like in-depth abstract strategy. So I don't know what.
Well, I'd be interested to see how in-depth this actually is, how long the matches end up being, because there is something there with the art on the box. If it's cute characters as opposed to just squares or cubes, it is appealing to a different target audience.
Well, I mean, I also just think about how the audience for board games has changed in general. I wouldn't be surprised if there are more folks who, if they could choose between chess and something like chess but cuter, like probably would just pick the cuter one. I mean, especially if they're both, maybe they like the abstract, maybe they like the strategy, but like if I could choose these old boring guys or this cute penguin, I'll go for the penguin. Like I think it's the same reason you see lots of weird chess sets that are just like cute, adorable pieces. So I think you'll be surprised.
All right, anyway, all right.
That has 6 days left as well?
6 days left, April 30th.
Okay. Well, speaking of cute and adorable and entirely heartwarming, the next project, you don't think so?
No.
Also with 6 days left is Velwraith, a solo fantasy quest game where you basically play the spirit of someone who's died in a world that's ending, and you're desperately trying to use your remaining memories and kind of collect them to make any change for the better. You don't think that's adorable and cute?
Derek, the cover of this is someone with a skull for a face. I sometimes wonder if your cuteness meter is thrown off.
Probably. We did say that I watched a lot of anime, so there's some issues there. But anyway, this really stood out at me just because of the really moody artwork. It's all kind of reminds me of a comic book version of Luis Royo's art. I don't know if anybody's seen him. A very old classic kind of fantasy illustrator. But it's very moody. It's very kind of like mist filled with these dark and mysterious characters kind of floating around in it. And it's another solo game, which I have a feeling we kind of need a lot right now.
Yeah.
But it does have rules for playing multiplayer. There's some expansions and playmats available. But what it really boils down to is if you want a 30-minute to an hour game where you're a ghost who is trying to recover and use their memories in kind of a world destroyed, here you go.
Ooh. Cool. How many days left?
That is another 6 days left, April 30th. April 30th is coming up a lot for our Kickstarters this week.
All the Kickstarters. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm gonna combo break that into Sunken D&D, or Dungeons and D&D coloring book. You ever wanted to have your creative friends play D&D, but also remind you of the first grade? I got the Kickstarter for you. It's a creative inspired game. Like basically you're supposed to cut and paste and color all of your characters in this, like, you know, coloring book. You go ahead and you just like color in the characters. You stick on and glue on all your weapons for your character class. It's designed to be one shots. So this is a sequel / prequel to the classic colorable art, like the classic colorable RPG game, The Cloud Dungeon. Each player, like I said, gets to customize their character, and as you get hurt, you have to rip off your life down, as you can see right there displayed. Very, very, very complicated artwork you have to do and cut out and make, so you can make everything original. You get to make decisions with serious consequences, and horrible and ridiculous things happen. So if you want something, you know, that's like a little bit fun, and you can get some people who maybe have more of a creative side into D&D, this is probably the game you want to check out.
I just love how it basically turns D&D into like crafts time at school, when you take out the popsicle sticks and you get a coloring book and you cut things and you kind of stitch them back together.
Yeah. I think they can go even further with, I want to see, the popsicle stick and the little pom-poms and the glue is everywhere and your hands are sticky and you get it on your face.
You want to put googly eyes on everything?
Yes.
Oh yes, googly eyes is a must.
If I had this when I was a kid, so like another thing that I used to do as a child is I would make my parents watch me put on puppet performances. Yeah, see, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had this as a kid, I absolutely would put them on sticks and then have little puppet show D&D adventures.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool. But yeah, I can see this appealing to both older and younger audiences. So that has 7 days left, Friday, May 1st, if you guys are interested.
All right. Here's our shout out to the raid we just got from Luzapalooza. Thanks for joining us. Up next on our Kickstarters, we have Frosthaven. Yes, this is the big deal. Having raised already $1 bajillion on Kickstarter is
a bajillion million?
A bajillion, literally $1 bajillion. With 7 days left, ending on Friday, May 1st. If you have somehow managed to avoid hearing about this, the name might sound familiar, and that's because this is the follow-up to the 2017 smash hit Gloomhaven. Yes, that is correct. So another huge box game. It's going to really capture a lot of the flavor of what made Gloomhaven so successful. It's like Gloomhaven and just more of that, and it's also compatible with everything from Gloomhaven. So if you have enjoyed Gloomhaven, you're going to be excited about this. In part because, you've been playing Gloomhaven for a few years. You've gone through most of the content. Here's just a truckload of new content. It's also, I imagine, going to be getting a lot of new players in as well. I have friends who are into board games but haven't had a chance to check out Gloomhaven before, and you can just start with Frosthaven. So a lot of fun stuff in there for existing and potentially new fans. If somehow you have not heard about Gloomhaven, it's kind of the quintessential dungeon crawl role-playing game, board game. Not role-playing games so much. There's a fair amount of story in there, but it's less about, role-playing as your character and more role-playing is a sense like a role-playing video game. So you level up your skills, you're doing cooperative combat together, you're going to different places and getting quests and all those kinds of things. So it's 1 to 4 players, 30 minutes per player. I actually had a chance, I haven't played the campaign, but I had a chance to do some of the one-shots. What's really another really cool thing about this is you can have a couple of campaigns going with one box. You can have multiple groups of friends. You have people jump in, jump out. You can even just run one-shots with other people while you're doing campaigns. So there's a lot of flexibility to the gameplay here. And the combat is just really super solid. I've seen a lot of games like this. I've played Kickstarter games that really just kind of fell apart, like these huge games, and the actual mechanics it was too big for what the creator's doing. But Isaac Childress really nailed it with this one, made very solid combat, with your hidden goals that make it very interesting to actually make choices. And you might not always do the most optimal thing because you're trying to level up your character. So definitely can recommend this. You should check it out. Watch the video, read the reviews. There's a million out there. You can tell by the amount of money it's raised and the support for this. It's a very good game, very good product if you're looking for something like this. It is kind of a lot, you know, it does require somebody to be kind of like the GM for the game. They got to look ahead, maybe see some of the spoilers, put out the characters on the map. So there's some effort involved with it. But if you're into that kind of thing, this is definitely the best of what's available. And that has 7 days left, ending Friday, May 1st.
We have a few more minutes to get through because we also want to cover our dice finally.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
why don't you run through the last couple Kickstarters we wanted to highlight?
Yeah, up next we have Planet Unknown. 7 days left, ending Friday, May 1st. This is space planet exploration tile laying game. What's kind of unique about this one is it has lots of different Tetronimo style tiles and like a lazy Susan thing that spins them around, or at least the way the tiles are distributed is kind of interesting. So if you like things like terraforming Mars, I find for these kinds of space games, because I've also played a lot of video games in this vein, a lot of them don't quite capture what I'm looking for. So I'm kind of hoping that this will finally be the game, the one that captures that feeling. So
there's always that feeling of finding the new game and being like, is this the one?
Yeah, I know,
will
right?
This
is this
truly,
the one that's
will this finally bring me happiness?
7 days left, Friday, May 1st. Last but not least, we have Gods of Egypt. This is, I believe, the last in Eric Lang's grand trilogy. First, we have Blood Rage, then Rising Sun, and now we have Ankh. I haven't gotten a chance to play Blood Rage yet, but played Rising Sun a few times. Very fun game. This is another Kickstarter board game, capital KGB. KBG. KGB is a different thing. KBG. So it's got the minis to it. It's got a lot of interesting interlocking mechanics. What I really like about Rising Sun is the fact that it's not a minis combat war game where you just go to war and fight and there's no consequence to it. There's actually a lot of consequences to the combat, and you actually have to think very carefully when you're fighting and attacking people. So it's a lot more about the politics. These games have a very strong political angle to them. For Rising Sun, you have tea ceremonies where you actually build and break alliances. So very cool territory management style games, but with a lot of subtleties to them, which I think is really cool. So if you like that kind of gameplay, you should check out Ankh. It has 10 days left and is ending Monday, May 4th.
Ooh, I did like the art for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Blood Rage was the Viking game. Rising Sun was the Japanese inspired game.
Yeah.
And this is the ancient Egypt inspired game. They're all going to be very similar in terms of like very board game familiar rules that use very cool minis just to make the board look exciting. But it's definitely not like a miniature war game or anything like that. It's a board game.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. I was especially intrigued. Well, that, my friends, was our Kickstarters. But wait, we have a new thing that we're doing here at TableTakes, and we get to intro with this. We're going to be going ahead and talking about topics today, just to break up. Let's go ahead and get to know each other. Let's talk about something a little bit more easier, especially because everybody's like stuck up inside and there's not too much news going around. So we are going to discuss news that just things that just matter to us. And for this, we're using Shiny Math Rocks, also known as dice. These little things right here. Well, each of us have our own collection of dice, and I think Emma's, yours is your photos are going to be presented first.
Oh, are mine first? Oh, geez.
Yes.
I can't even hold this. Okay, I'm just going to show off some of my big containers. We're going to talk a little bit about how we all have different philosophies about dice.
Yes.
And mine is definitely a quantity philosophy. I've been in a position to collect a lot over the years being 4 years. I remember fondly, I believe it was 4 years ago, it was at Gen Con. So this is a cool Gen Con focus story. Lots of fun stuff happened to me at Gen Con. But for this one, I got my first dice at Gen Con. I got my first D20. It
Ooh.
was from it was from Jinx. A representative from Jinx was at one of the events and gave me a D20. I'm like, oh, cool. Oh, this is kind of cool. This dice, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like it a lot. And the next day at Gen Con, I went to one of the ChessX booth and like bought a bunch of dice, and that was it. That was sold. I was sold. I just like ever since then, every convention, I buy a bunch of dice. This is only a small part of my collection in this picture here. I like weird dice. For me, it's more about the collecting aspect and the appearance aspect than necessarily the functionality or the rolling. A lot of people care about balance of the dice or, you know, being able to use them. And I do use them. I have, for example, see if I can show it off here. I have my dice tray and my dice that I use specifically for my D&D game. I have dice that are kind of focused on my character, who is a celestial warlock. So I have a lot of fun metal, like pink dice. I have a lot of sparkly dice. So this is very much about my character. So I do care about playing with them, but also just getting weirder dice. Like if anyone ever sees me and gives me a weird thing that I don't have in my collection yet, that's definitely something I'm very excited about. I have these little test tubes with some of the weirder dice in there. This one on the end, you can see it a little bit. It's a weather dice. So I have a lot of dice that don't have numbers on them. They just have weird symbols on them. A lot of them, a reason I have the quantity is not just buying dice, but taking apart board games for components for board game design. So I have a bunch of weird dice that I've just picked up from old board games. You know, go to Goodwill, find a game that's not in great shape, but it has some nice components. So yeah, I just like holding them and looking at them and touching them.
But you're definitely a more is better.
More is better. Quantity versus quality.
Yeah, more weird. Like I don't like if I had 200, I have a lot of just kind of your basic D6s that's just with a color or just like a black or a white D6. And at this point, you know, I'm like, oh, I'll take those for my collection. But now I'm like, the weird artifacts, you know, like the bone dice or the meteorite dice. I'm excited to expand into new. Oh, this one
seems like chat so far agrees with you on more dice is better dice.
More is better.
Oh, more dice.
This is one of my favorite. I actually found it on the floor at Mox when I was working there, and when no one eventually claimed it, I took it home.
I think those are I thought those like the Q workshop dice. I think.
Oh yeah, we had talked about that.
Yeah.
Because I was showing it off.
So not my style.
It's cool shapes.
You don't like
the numbers are a little hard to read, but it's the weight of it. I wish I could have y'all hold in your hands because you got
numbers are hard to read. You say numbers are hard to read?
Yeah, it's not for rolling.
It's a die.
There.
Oh.
It's for looking cool and feeling cool in your hand.
Well, I mean, I guess Derek, you have some opinions about dice and material then, because Emma's definitely a quantity versus quality. What about like me myself? I also have
they're all good dice, Brent. Okay,
no,
they're
not
all good dice.
I can't throw any of them out. So I have a collection of a bunch of dice I don't like. They're in a nice little box. The box is on the shelf. It will stay there, but they're not all good dice, Emma.
You have a dice prison, essentially, Derek?
Yeah,
Do you have
more like dice exile?
Well, I'll never admit.
But yeah, what about your collection, Derek?
Well, so I like dice that are strange, and I like dice that are usually usable or really, really weird. So like there's a couple that's like the D20 that will light up and stuff, but I don't really use those.
Oh, so jealous.
But, you know, we have the wooden dice.
Oh, those are so cool.
Oh, those are nice.
Yep. But like these are more just display pieces. I think some of the other ones that I think are really cool are, I have these dice that are, it's hard to see, but they're hollow.
Yeah.
Let's see if you can hear this.
Oh, why is it ring?
Because they're hollow aluminum dice that tinkle when you roll.
Ooh, it's got like a thing in there.
You have tinkling dice?
There's not a thing in it. They're just two pieces of aluminum that kind of tinkle and bounce off each other.
Oh, cool. Sound is important for dice. I concur.
Yep. There's the weird carbon fiber dice. Like you can't say no to that.
Oh, so cool. So jealous.
There was a period of time that I ran on a collecting spree of collecting sets of 2d6 because I told myself I was going to play so many Powered by the Apocalypse games.
Yeah.
The special dice that I use the most right now are actually my Legend of the Five Rings dice. They're a little hard to see, I think, in the light, but they're this lavender jade that is like a white, a green, and a pink. That's really nice. We have a photo of a lot of this stuff up, I think, that we can put up on the stream at some point too. And then I also have the vampire box with all the vampire dice in it. These are the really fancy metal ones where the blood dye is kind of tinted red and stuff. I mean, speaking of weaponized, like those D6s, the carbon fiber D6s, those are sharp. I will tell you right now.
Yeah.
So, I tend to like dice that are either really cool and fancy and pretty, or that are really just very utilitarian. Like for D&D, if I'm going to grab and go play D&D, I just have the dice bag that has, I think, 4 or 5 sets where they have the big D20 that's slightly bigger than the D6s. I think that was like their smoky collection recently, and it's very easy to read.
Yeah.
Gives me a bunch of dice. There's a bunch of D6s in there. I've got 5 D20s, so when I'm running multiple monsters, I just roll the D20s and all that kind of stuff. I like getting like multiple sets of like different color dice and whatnot, so that if I'm playing a monk, I can roll all my attacks at once and stuff like that. That's one of the reasons that I like this dice set, because it was cute. It looks like little bookshelves. So you pull the book out and you open the book up, and it's just got a full set of dice in there, and there's all these different colors and stuff.
Yeah.
There was also a period of time where I think the only time that I agree with Emma on quantity of dice is when they're tiny.
Shadowrun?
No, when they're really super tiny. So like I have the half-size dice, because a lot of the dice are like, say, this big. I've got a bunch of dice that are this big. I've got 2 test tubes of dice that are like this big.
Yeah.
For a long time, I was going through and collecting. I would get 1 new set of tiny dice every time I went to a convention, so that I can fill one of those Altoid tins and always have more than enough dice than necessary.
I got a tiny, like the 4 or 5 millimeter ones.
I have one of those too. The ones that are the micro dice that you feel like if you look at it too hard and sniff, that you would inhale the dice.
Yeah, we did a dice pouring ceremony for a wedding as opposed to a sand pouring ceremony.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's nice. I like that. That's a good recommitment ceremony to do.
There's an idea.
Combine the dice.
But Bonza, what about your dice?
My dice. Well, I'm kind of a stickler. I do have some quantity dice just because, it's always good to have a bag of dice you can pelt somebody with in case of emergencies.
Yeah. Slam it in someone's head. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's head. But I also...
Would not be my first choice for emergencies.
What? Dice? It's good. It's just bludgeon. But also for me, I really do like, I'm very big about dice science, and like, we can go ahead and discuss. I have a big thing. A lot of people like you were saying, like, Derek, you have a lot of like metal dice, Emma as well. There's also these fancy ones with like fancy rocks kind of thing, like fancy metals and stuff like that. I'm a big stickler when it comes to like wooden dice. I don't really care for, because I am very big about balancing and about like, accuracy of as quite as accurate as you can. And also I kind of care about other people's tables. So rolling metal dice on a glass table just sounds like a bad idea to me a lot of the times.
That's why you always bring your own special dice tray.
Yeah, a lot of the special dice you really need to bring a dice tray for to consider the environment.
I have dice trays, and I have a lot of like, I really go for really interesting style of dice. If it looks interesting and it looks like it could be balanced, I definitely am one. Like here, like, D4s are definitely caltrops if you ever try throwing them on the ground, especially if you have metal ones. But I feel like this, like, is the superior of the D4s because it's rounded and balanced on all sides. I'm just going to go ahead and tell that out there. It's really important. So.
So you seem to be really anti D4. And like I have to say, there's a classic element to this caltrop. Don't leave it on the floor. But why do you hate this D4 so much? What did it do to you to fill
It's
you
just
with
like-
such rage that you want to roll d12s instead.
I mean, I definitely have stepped on a few times, but it just doesn't. It seems like
So what
just
you're telling me is your dice hygiene was lacking, and you're blaming the dice.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
No.
got it.
But no, it's just like a weird. It's not as aesthetically pleasing to me. I like roundness. The roundness is what pleases.
The aesthetic pleasingness of the D4 to me is the fact that it's part of a set. So I like that you have the full range of platonic solids, basically. even if the D10 is basically cheating and is not really set up the way it should be or whatever. But there's something about kind of those idealized shapes that feels right. So having like two D12s where one is 1 to 12 and one of the other is not just feels cheap, feels unright.
All right. Well, I mean, I also have a big thing about accuracy. I don't know if we have that chat for a link, but Game Science Dice Demo, they're one of the people that also like convinced me and my husband, like, yeah, we need to get these like balanced casino dice because it can be weighted. Look at the different sizes and stuff. It's a whole rabbit hole. I don't think we have enough time to discuss in terms of like the craziness in terms of like balancing and mixturing. Like I even have different special dice that are double D6s that are D12s that shaped a certain way, so it creates more of a randomizing. But I guess like we could go ahead. We can of course talk on and on about dice, but I have a question for each of you. Is if you had like money is no object, what would your dream set be? You think about that. What your dream set of dice would be?
My dream set would not be a set because again, I want sets. Kind of annoy me a little bit. I'm frustrated because everyone wants to sell like the set of 7 dice. I'm like, I don't want 7. I want 1 dice. You're selling me the set of 7 dice for like $200. Can I just get the one little baby dice for less than that? Because I just want one of each type. I want one of each. This is what
See, I think I'm the opposite. I always want a set. I never want just one die. I always want a set because I like having multiple sets. So again, so that I can roll multiple attacks and damage at one time and just see them all go. It's very funny how far we are. But like, if I don't know, like I don't know what would be the perfect set. But like I think that something like amber with little insects or something inside it. A lot of the dice that people make, the very artisanal dice where like they have koi fish or something inside. Those are very pretty. The ones that are almost little dioramas.
Yeah.
I think my dream set would be something like that is also actually readable. I don't know if that's possible, but you said whatever I want, so that's what I want.
You want readable see-through dice.
Yep. I want readable inside diorama dice.
If you could have the ink be like illuminated or something.
Hey, it's not my problem to solve. It's the dice makers.
All right. What about Emma? So what would your one dice be, like material-wise or anything like that? Do you have any ideas that popped in your head?
I think my big hashtag dream dice, hashtag chase dice, dice goals. Now, so we're gonna hashtag dice goals.
Hashtag dice goals.
For a couple, I have like a good meteorite dice and maybe like a good bone dice. I think, like for me, not just that it's made of a thing, but you can really tell it's just really weird. Like it's weird and unique, and just like the blue sandstone dice I get doesn't show up great on camera, but there's like sparkles in it when you turn it to the different sides. It just looks and feels so different. I would say because I got from a subscription. Yes, I have a Dice Envy subscription service. They send me a dice every month. It's great. I got an amber dice, but it just kind of looks like a plastic dice. Like you couldn't really tell unless you knew that it was amber. So maybe like a bigger one or something where you could really
or a bug inside or something like that.
Yeah, or a bug. Yeah, exactly.
I think for mine, dream set dice is going to be the hardest substance that I could find, like either diamond or tungsten, and make that into a dice. Because then, it has also, in case you can get a slingshot, have pelting ability and stuff like that. That's you have to.
So you want depleted uranium dice. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
that sounds cool.
Hardest
that awesome.
metal that also radiates. Yay. That's fun. But as fun as we're having right now, unfortunately, my friends, we're gonna have to end our talk about shiny math rocks and why we love them so much and how much we hoard. But don't go just wet, because stick around. We still have a lot more stuff to offer here at Gen Con TV. So if you guys don't know, we are if you want to stick around for conversations, today we're having a discussion about playing board games online. So we got people from Tabletopia, Board Game Arena, Tabletop Playground, and This Game Gets Dicey, Paula Deming, going in and joining us just like in like 15 minutes essentially, or 15 to 30 minutes to talk about that. And we don't just have Friday shows, we also have a lot of other shows. Monday, 6 p.m, Board Games with the Brothers Mirth. They basically play board games and they're brothers. The Wednesday was starting off at 9 a.m. again with the Brothers Mirth, but instead of board games, they're going to paint minis with you. 11 a.m, This Game Gets Dicey is basically with Paula Deem. They're different people. Like, they basically get some games that you guys suggest, or like they suggest, or their community suggests, and play it right in front of you and just see how well it goes. 4 p.m. on Wednesdays, we got Fireside, basically writers who get to play in a fantasy world together. Wrong one. Sorry, Fireside talks about D&D and behind the scenes. My bad. So if you guys want to go ahead and learn more stuff about behind the scenes, definitely go check it out. 6:30, we have the Westgate Irregulars. That's the one that are writers who are also playing in a beautiful fantasy world. And then on Fridays, of course, you have us starting at 2 p.m. TableTakes. We are your gaming tabletop news. We'll keep you updated on the conventions, all the board games that are coming out, Kickstarters, and, getting to know us a little bit about personal preferences and everything. And at 3:30, we have the Roundtable Conversations. So remember, follow, like, subscribe, do all the bips and bobs and things. We're on YouTube as well as Twitch. So you guys can, if you can't catch our VODs on Twitch, you can wait 24 hours and it'll pop up on YouTube. We also have podcasts for our Fireside. So if you end up missing those, you can always check them out later. And I want to say thank you, Emma and Derek, for joining us. And thank you guys for coming in, rating, hanging out, discussing with us, chatting along. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Goodbye, friends.